guys, this is the breakdown slash thought process video I mentioned previously, so let's get started. First of all, I want to say that I'm not a professional and my tips are to help create a final image that looks decent according to my own standards, of course. Also, this Wagon and this apple here are actually downloaded models. The Wagon is from Sketchfab and it's made by Blood Neko. I will credit in the description down below. However, only a small part of the Wagon is visible in the final image, so I think it's fine that I didn't make everything myself. And this apple is downloaded from TurboSquid, if I remember correctly. With that out of the way, I'll start with the character here. Her griefs didn't make it into the final image, so I wasted time trying to come up with a cool design. The original idea was to have a more top-down shot, something like this, but as you can see, that will mean I have to add a ground plane as well as grass and other foliage. So I scrapped the idea and went with this straight-on close-up shot instead. Her armor is modified from existing models from previous work, mostly from a sword mage, and with added pieces like the tasset, the cutter, and this cloth piece here, because I wanted to make something like the Lothric Knight armor from Dark Souls. This is all just sub-D modeling techniques. Every pieces is subdivided 2 times with added thickness from the solidify modifier, and the torso pieces still have the mirror modifier. After modeling, I just parent them to the bone. Shift select the armature, go into pose mode, select the bone you want, hit Ctrl P and choose bone. Let's hide the other stuff and reset her pose for now. As you can see, the rotation of the cutter and the tasset are messed up. This is because I rotated the models individually to fit the pose. The tasset is parented to the waist piece instead of the femur bone, because if I were to parent it to the bone and pose it, it will actually clip into other parts like the skirt and the waist piece. Of course, in real life, these pieces are all connected with one another, either with rivets or leather straps. But for fantasy armor like this, I'll just pretend that the connecting parts are in the inner side of the armor. The tasset is usually connected to the waist piece, so it makes sense to parent it here. But again, I'm not a professional or a rigger, so I just do what works for me. I set the origin point around here and rotate it out to fit the sitting pose. But if I want to reset the pose like what we have now, I can just save this rotation and press Alt R to reset it for now. Same thing with this cutter, but it is at an angle like this. I don't want to apply the rotation because I want to be able to rotate it locally. If I apply the rotation, I will get something like this and it will make editing the rotation very tedious. So what I do is having a backup model to keep the rotation and location. Like this one here. So I can just select the cutter first and then the backup model. Right click, copy all to selected, and also the location. Copy all to selected, and there we have it. You can save a backup model for the rotated position as well if you're afraid of losing the data. Now moving on to the softer parts, like this loin piece here. This is parented to the armature with automatic weight, because again, I'm not a rigger and I don't know how to weight paint properly. This piece is also adjusted to fit the pose, but it's done with shape key. If I untick this, you can see the original form. Same thing with this chainmail skirt. The front piece moves with the armor, so it's parented to the chest piece. The cape is at the back, so I didn't adjust it other than parenting it to the gorget. The glove under the gauntlet is with automatic weight. If I go into pose mode and move the finger, the gauntlet doesn't follow because I didn't parent it to the bone, mostly because of laziness. and the finger aren't moved in the pose, so it's fine. The hair, brow and lashes are all parented to the head bone, like this as well. And the head is parented with automatic weight. You get this modifier with automatic, and you can actually apply the pose as a shape key if you want. There's no body under the armor. This is to improve performance because I normally do not retopple my sculpt, and I don't need to fuss about the body clipping through the armor when I pose it. The head is painted with the vertex color as usual, but of course you will need to properly unwrap the model and texture paint instead if you want higher detail. The hair is also the usual stuff like my previous videos, just different color. I always link a tutorial in the description down below if you want to learn about it. The only thing I added to the skin is this noise texture for the bump, so that the skin is not entirely smooth like a doll. I just can't be bothered to manually pen in the skin bump even if I unwrap this. The armor is just a principal shader with metallic turn on, and again noise texture for the battered look. Also using it as the roughness, first by converting it to black and white, invert it, raise the contrast, and lowering the value. The dark area means less roughness and lighter area is the opposite. The Chainmail is a downloaded texture from texture.com. Just unwrap and apply. We have the albedo, metallic, roughness, alpha, height and normal. Scale everything to 2.5. Back pieces are just single color material with cotton roughness, height and normal. For the front piece, the albedo is painted in Photoshop and added the same cotton texture as the back pieces. For parts like this, I make a marking like this and draw the remaining pattern in Photoshop, so I end up with this. Just a griffin with a wall pick and some kill count for a small bit of character background, I guess. Also painted an alpha map to add some holes to the piece. Okay, moving on to the other parts. The wall pick and shield are both molded with sub-D technique as well. The only thing I added to the wagon is this bevel modifier to round off the edges a little. The hair is added with particle system, and the underlying shape is just a downloaded texture. Molded one strand of hair like this, with the tip pointing towards the y-axis and down. Here's the setting for the particle system. Emission number at 1000. Frames start and end at 0 with a lifetime of only 1 frame, because we are not animating this. So if I pull out the timeline, you can see appear all at the same time at frame 0. Rotation is tick and orientation is set to normal. This way the hair will follow the normal of the emitter, so as you can see it comes out and curve down like the strand we have here, and randomize it a bit for a natural look. And then of course the object is set to this hair. Children is set to simple with only 25 and a little bit of randomized signs. The material is just a simple yellowish color with high roughness. When I'm done, I just hit convert and manually delete the strands that clip through other objects. This is what I end up with. For lighting, it's just a sun lamp and HDR. This is what the HDR looks like. And I use a PNG with transparency to block out some of the sunlight to get that patchy bright spots like this. To get the transparency in the viewport, you will need to go to Eevee Render Engine and then the Material tab. Set the blend mode to Alpha Blend. Then you can set it back to Cycles. The camera's focal length is 50, pretty standard stuff. Now for the last part, rendering and compositing, I will change this to the compositor. Sampling is at 200 and I'll set the film to transparent. But in this render layer tab, make sure to tick environment. You will see it appear in our render layer node here. I will skip the rendering part and explain the rest when it's done. So what I did before is to allow us to use the HDR as a background without being affected by the ambient occlusion. My ambient occlusion is usually around 0.7. Put them together and through an alpha over. I use a color correction to bump up the gain of master and highlights before and after. Lastly, a glare node to add to the really bright spots, as you can see here. Also under color management, make sure to use Filmic and add some contrast here, or you can go without depending on what you do. Save image and that's it. I hope this is useful for you guys. I do think this type of breakdown video is more informational and provide more value, but of course I will still post time-lapse. Let me know what you guys think and I will try my best to answer. If you have any question that is within my reach, give me a like and subscribe if you think I deserve it, and I'll see you in the next one.